I remember asking Lenny, what is it about books that you love so much? And Lenny said to me, he said, Rory, I realized a few years ago that the moment I stop learning is the moment I start dying. I remember this day, one, it was my birthday, but two, because of how awful it was, right? And I would knock on doors and it was like, knock, knock. We're not interested. Slam. Knock, knock. We don't want any. Slam. I knock on a door and this guy in a wheelchair answers and he says to me, you're selling kids' books, huh? Turns out that this guy was 67 years old. His wife had died some years earlier. And after he lost his legs in Vietnam, Lenny became quite wealthy writing children's books. And Lenny loved books. And what happened was he loved the books so much, he bought one of every single thing I had. And then he bought an entire set for his neighbors. And then he bought another entire set to donate to a needy family. Lenny spent $4,221 within about an hour. And it was the single biggest sale that I'd ever had in 5 years, 5 summers of knocking on doors. And I remember asking Lenny, what is it about books that you love so much? And Lenny said to me, he said, Rory, I realized a few years ago that the moment I stop learning is the moment I start dying. And this is true about leaders. The day I stop learning is the day that I start dying. And this is one of the saddest things about high-level leaders is they reach a point where they think the title on their business card or the number of years that they have been in an industry or in a company, that they feel like they get to a point where, or they've been to so many different courses or programs, they stop learning. And what they forget is that just because you're so used to being the teacher doesn't mean that you get to stop being the student. And that is a big problem because we're so used to being the teacher, which is important. But we forget, the higher we advance and the more leadership experience we have, we forget that we have to also continue to be the student. We have to keep learning. And from a technical standpoint, this is why this really matters. And I want to show you something called the knowledge meter. And this applies to you, but also to your team. So what happens is whenever we're trying to get ourselves to do something, we're going to be faced with uncertainty. The more we don't know, the more uncertainty we have, the more that fear goes up. So as uncertainty goes up, fear goes up. As fear goes up, procrastination or inaction goes up. These work together. Uncertainty leads to fear. Fear leads to procrastination. Procrastination creates the result of inaction, which leads to lesser results. But we often think about going, oh, well, we need to just take more action, without realizing that the catalyst, that one of the greatest of all catalysts for action is knowledge. Because as knowledge goes up, uncertainty goes down. And as knowledge goes up and uncertainty goes down, as knowledge goes up, our confidence goes up. As confidence goes up, our fear goes down. And as our confidence goes up, our willingness to take action goes up, because it's like, oh, I've got something new to try. I've got something new to do. And procrastination goes down. So there's this emotional battle when we think of taking action, which is sometimes daunting to motivate ourselves or our team. But in reality, inaction often is more the result of unknowing than it is the result of laziness. So if I can continue to learn, and if I can get my team, I can get my team excited about continuing to learn, then what's going to happen is their fear is going to go down and their procrastination is going to go down. And for both them and for myself, if you want exponential growth in your earnings, you must have exponential growth in your learnings. And this never changes. And unfortunately, a lot of times leaders are very humble early on, and they learn a lot early on, and then they just reach this point where they stop learning, or they feel like, oh, I've heard it all. And what happens is it kind of starts this downward spiral, not realizing that it's the moment your personal growth stops, it's like your team stops. But if you keep growing and you keep learning, then your team will, and you're going to have really, really great results.